Scene 1. The First Encounter. Helen Carter stood outside AstroLux Motors, staring through the glass doors with a quiet resolve. The dealership glistened under the late morning sun, all polished chrome, sparkling windows, and sleek advertisements boasting luxury beyond limits. She adjusted the strap of her worn-out brown handbag and smoothed the simple beige dress she had chosen that morning. It wasn't glamorous, but it was clean, and it was hers. She took a breath, held her head a little higher, and stepped inside. The cool, conditioned air hit her immediately. Inside, it was a different world. The scent of new leather and expensive cologne floated in the air. High-heeled shoes clicked against marble floors, and polished loafers shuffled on plush carpets. Conversations buzzed around her, quiet but pointed, as customers in tailored suits and designer dresses discussed engine power and custom interiors. Helen moved between the shining cars, her reflection soft and fleeting. She paused by a black sports car, her hand hovering above the hood. A quiet admiration lit up in her gaze. Across the showroom, a group of salespeople noticed her. One man, tall and slick with a tie pin gleaming at his throat, nudged his colleague. "Lost, maybe?" He chuckled. "Probably looking for the used lot," the other replied, loud enough that Helen caught a few words. Still, she moved forward, her gaze steady. Another car, a silver sedan, caught her attention. She leaned slightly to read the price tag on the windshield. The number was staggering. More than she had ever spent on anything. "Can I help you?" a voice said, dripping with condescension. Helen turned to see a salesman approach. His smile was thin, almost painful. "I'm just looking," she said gently. With a small nod, but it was clear he had already judged her. "Well," he said, gesturing subtly toward the door, "we do have an affiliated dealership across the street, specializing in more budget-conscious options." Helen blinked, absorbing the comment. For a moment she said nothing. Then she smiled, a soft, knowing smile. "Thank you for the information," she said. "But I think I'll come back tomorrow." Without waiting for a response, she turned and made her way toward the exit. Behind her, she heard the faint snickers, the whispered jokes. She kept walking, each step steady and graceful. Outside, the sun was still shining. Helen paused on the sidewalk, glanced back once at the sparkling showroom, and then moved on, her heart pounding, not from embarrassment but from excitement. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow they would see her again. And next time, it wouldn't be her admiring the cars. It would be them watching her. Helen Carter didn't go straight home. Instead, she walked 2 blocks down to a quiet little cafe she used to visit with her late husband. The place hadn't changed much. Still smelled like cinnamon and old wood. Still played soft jazz through old ceiling speakers. She took her tea to the corner seat by the window and sat with her back straight, hands gently wrapped around the cup. Through the window, AstroLux Motors gleamed quietly in the sun. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the window. Tired eyes. A soft and kind face. A woman who'd lived more years in silence than most people knew how to speak in words. Yet someone had mocked it, judged it, brushed it off like it didn't matter. But she was not angry. Helen Carter did not do anger. She did patience. Grace. Long games. Her fingers tapped lightly on the table. She took a small notepad from her handbag and scribbled a name. Martin Greaves, Regional Sales Director. That was the man she'd asked to meet earlier that day, and had been told was too busy to speak with walk-ins. She turned the page and wrote another note. Notify Richard. Prepare contract update. Add dealership under holding. A young man passed by the cafe, glancing twice at Helen. Helen Carter. Helen looked up slowly, smiled. "Yes, Nathan, isn't it? You were David's assistant." With a quick nod, he caught his breath. "Yeah, that's me. I didn't expect to see you here." Helen gestured to the seat across from her. "Join me for a moment." As he sat, he couldn't help but glance at her notes. She didn't hide them. In fact, she slid the notepad toward him. "The team at AstroLux," she said gently, "believes I don't belong." Nathan's eyes widened. They don't know yet, she added, sipping her tea, that they work for me. He gave a short laugh, then blinked. Wait, you're serious? Helen set her cup down with a soft clink. Her voice was calm but firm. By this time tomorrow, I'll own 40% of that dealership. Outside, a black car pulled up slowly to the curb. Her driver stepped out, nodded toward her through the glass. Helen stood, placing a few folded bills on the table. Thank you for the tea, Nathan. It's always nice to be reminded of where we started. She walked out without a single glance back. Behind her, Nathan sat motionless, mouth slightly open. And across the street, AstroLux Motors gleamed quietly, unaware that by morning, the power dynamic would shift forever. The morning sun blazed across the skyline, skimming the top page. He furrowed his brow. Inside, the showroom was buzzing. Salesmen straightened their ties, polished their smiles, and prepared for another day of selling dreams on 4 wheels. Long golden streaks onto the polished marble of AstroLux Motors. The door opened smoothly. Helen Carter stepped out, dressed sharply in a deep navy blue suit that fit her perfectly. Simple. Elegant. Her brown handbag was replaced with a sleek leather portfolio. She didn't rush. Every step toward the glass doors was measured, steady and strong. The morning sun caught the edge of her glasses, giving her an almost radiant glow. Her heels tapped lightly across the marble floor as she entered. At the reception desk, the young woman looked up, smiling automatically. Good morning, ma'am. How can I help you? Helen returned the smile, calm, controlled. I'm here to meet Martin Greaves, she said. I believe he's expecting me. The receptionist, slightly confused, picked up the phone. Helen could hear the rushed whispers. Someone's here. She says Mr. Greaves is expecting her. A minute later, Martin Greaves himself hurried out. His smile was wide, practiced. Good morning. Welcome to AstroLux Motors, he said, extending his hand. Martin Greaves, Regional Director. Helen shook his hand firmly. Helen Carter, she said. Let's go somewhere private. Greaves, slightly thrown off by her tone, led her to a glass conference room overlooking the showroom. Salesmen and customers bustled around, oblivious to the quiet storm brewing above them. Once inside, Helen opened her portfolio, laid out a set of crisp legal documents, and pushed them toward Greaves. He skimmed the top page, his brow furrowing. What is this? Helen's voice was steady. Skimming the top page, he furrowed his brow. Effective immediately, I have purchased a controlling 40% share of AstroLux Motors. Greaves' face drained of color. A finalized agreement, she said. And as part of the transition, there will be some operational changes. Outside the glass, the salesman who had insulted her the day before laughed loudly at a customer's joke, unaware that his world was about to change. Helen stood, gathering her portfolio. Please inform your staff that the new management is here. I'll be making some introductions shortly. She turned, heels clicking sharply on the marble, and left Greaves staring at the papers, mouth slightly open, heart hammering against his ribs. The Queen had returned. And the showroom would never be the same again. The staff at AstroLux Motors stood in an uneven line across the showroom floor. Some clutched clipboards, others folded their arms, a few shuffled awkwardly. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Helen Carter stood in front of them, calm, composed, radiating authority. Martin Greaves hovered nervously off to the side, still pale from their earlier meeting. Helen took a moment to let the silence stretch. She wanted them to feel it, to understand that today was different. Good morning, she began, her voice firm but not harsh. As of this morning, I hold a 40% controlling interest in AstroLux Motors. A ripple moved through the group. Surprise. Confusion. There will be changes, Helen continued. Changes in how we treat our customers. Changes in how we treat each other. She paced slowly in front of them, her heels clicking crisply against the floor. Yesterday, I came in here wearing a simple dress and carrying a worn handbag. Some of you judged me by what you saw." She stopped and turned to face them directly. Her eyes were steady, piercing. "Let me be clear. If you cannot treat every individual who walks through those doors with respect, regardless of how they look, you do not belong here." No one spoke. A few fidgeted nervously. Helen's gaze moved across the staff and landed on the salesman who had insulted her the day before. His smirk had vanished. His face was tight, anxious. "Second chances are rare," Helen said. "I'm offering one. Use it wisely." The room was heavy with unspoken apologies, silent promises. Helen walked over to a gleaming black sedan, the flagship model of the showroom. She turned to the salesman, the same one who had belittled her. "I'd like to purchase this car," she said, her voice clear and commanding. "And I'd like you to handle the paperwork." The man swallowed hard, nodded, and moved quickly to oblige. Martin Greaves, still watching from the side, exhaled slowly. There was a lesson unfolding in front of everyone, and no one was missing it. Helen turned back to the rest of the staff. "You have the chance to build something better here," she said. "I suggest you take it." With that, she moved toward the office, leaving behind a group of employees who suddenly realized that everything had changed. Respect was no longer optional. It was the new rule. Weeks passed, and AstroLux Motors began to transform. Under Helen Carter's leadership, the showroom evolved into something entirely new. Salesmen no longer judged by appearances. Clients, young, old, rich, or modest, were greeted with equal respect. The atmosphere shifted from one of arrogance to one of dignity. It wasn't instant. Change never is. But slowly, customers noticed. Word spread. Sales increased. And Helen, she didn't hover over them. She led quietly through example. When she spoke, people listened. When she entered, heads turned. Not out of fear, but out of earned respect. One rainy afternoon, Helen stood by the large showroom window, watching raindrops chase each other down the glass. In the reflection, she caught sight of the very salesman who had once belittled her. What was once stiff arrogance had softened into a welcoming stance. What once echoed with sharpness now spoke with genuine kindness. His voice, once laced with arrogance, was now genuinely kind. Helen smiled, a rare, deep smile. Behind her, Martin Greaves approached cautiously. "We've had record numbers this month," he said. "Customer satisfaction surveys are off the charts." Helen nodded, still watching the rain. "Good," she said simply. Martin hesitated, then added, "You've changed everything." Helen turned slightly, her voice calm, steady. "I didn't change everything," she said. "They did. I just gave them the chance." As the rain continued to fall, a family walked through the dealership doors. A mother, a father, a young daughter clutching a worn teddy bear. The receptionist's face lit up as she welcomed them warmly. Helen watched them for a moment, then turned away, satisfied. Victory, she realized, wasn't about ownership papers or financial reports. It was about leaving a place better than you found it.